The National Archives Task Force on Racism claiming its own rotunda is now racist. This kind of slipped by the headlines. It didn't slip by us, though. A recent report reads in part like this. Examples of structural racism at NARA include, but are no means limited to, a rotunda in our flagship building that lauds wealthy white men in the nation's founding while marginalizing black, indigenous, and other people of color, women, and other communities. Those white men who were wealthy happen to be our founding fathers. Here to react, Executive Director of American Rising, Cassie Smedile. Cassie, are you surprised that we now have a racist rotunda in the National Archives?
You know, it's just another example of what we're seeing across the board. Y'all have covered this a lot. Democrats control every lever of our federal government, and we're seeing these efforts become that much more flagrant and pervasive, and no classroom or agency or institution is off limits.
I mean, they're saying those white guys are depicted in too positive of a light, and they have to stop that. If you want to include other things in the mural, I understand that, or add an addition. It's a big room. But why alter who they are? And the fact is, without them, there is no us. Here are some of the suggestions to fix everything and make it perfect for them. Reimagine Rotunda, create a more accurate tribute to the nation's founding, display trigger warnings on certain documents and exhibits, believe that? Change language on our documents.gov website, create safe spaces in NARA facilities. Can you imagine going to the National Archives and leaving a safe space to get yourself back together?
Yeah, this report came from the very top, from the chief archivist, and this was something that they did a big group think on. And, you know, Brian, here's the thing. We're coming up on July 4th weekend, celebration of our independence, and the vast majority of Americans think that our country's pretty great and say, okay, we can form a more perfect union. We all agree with that. But we're proud to be Americans. And this whole idea that we're going to allow a very small group of people to set the tone, set the message, set the curriculum, just doesn't drive with where the vast majority of Americans are. And I think that's why when we find these things are happening, it's incumbent upon us to call it out. It's incumbent upon us to figure out what elected officials are behind this. And then for our part of America Rising to try and get better elected officials, the good guys and gals, to come in and say, I'm not going to use my time and your taxpayer dollars to put up with this.
So, Cassie, here's the problem. More and more kids are not learning what you and I learned. They're learning to not like the country. To see problems with the founding fathers. Instead of finding out back then slavery was on every single continent. We didn't invent it, but we fought a war to get rid of it. We all learned that. That was part of everybody's history instruction. No one ever ducked it. There were TV series, the most successful movies were about that portion of American history. Why now are they looking to take part the foundation?
Yeah. Well, again, it goes back to, I think there's not a checks and balance. You've got Democrats controlling every lever of government, and many of them agree with this sort of behavior, agree with these sorts of recommendations. But you're also seeing this uprising. Again, you guys have covered this a lot at school board meetings and just getting out there about cancel culture and critical race theory. And you're seeing that folks who come from where you and I come from say, this just not jive with the America that I know and the America that I love and the America that I want to raise my children in. And so there is this effort afoot, I think, to try and set these recommendations in stone because they know that they are out of step with the vast majority of Americans.
If you want to put Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, if you want to take Harriet Tubman, some of the great figures in our past, and put it, I'm all for that. But don't take down the indispensable people that put our country together and put their lives on the line to do it. Thanks, Cassie. Appreciate it.